Next segment of Fireside Chats, and the first informal conversation will have the experts sharing their opinion on the retail rebound. The topic at hand is the asset repositioning in the Phygital World. Well, this session will be chaired by the moderator. This certain gentleman is an experienced senior management professional of more than 23 years, skilled in negotiation, budgeting, business planning, retail and real estate development. He has a professional expertise across all asset classes, that is retail, commercial office, residential, and extensive knowledge of real estate across India and selectively in Sri Lanka. Please welcome the moderator for this session, Mr. Pankaj, Renjhen, COO and Joint Managing Director, Retail Services, ANAROCK Property Consultants Private Limited. A round of applause. A moment, can you please slow down the music? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if I have everybody's kind attention, Mr. Renjhen, if you agree on this point, I believe vitamin C is very important for the body. Is it not? Absolutely. Similarly, for a performer, claps or an applause works as equivalent of vitamin C. So I think we should give a huge round of applause to everyone who has taken out time from their schedule to grace this occasion. And with the same, let me introduce our speakers in the alphabetical order. Well, this particular person is the third generation entrepreneur in the sphere of real estate. He has been spearheading the Trehan Iris for the last 15 years and the development of brand Iris Broadway. Trehan Iris has witnessed monumental growth under his leadership. He looks after planning and construction, architecture, business development, land acquisition, and finance, along with other key aspects. Please put your hands together for our speaker, Mr. Abhishek Trehan, Executive Director, Trehan Iris. Welcome. Our next speaker is a global realty and retail analyst and has over 30 years of experience, that is more than 3 decades of experience in business development with global retail chains like Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and Bed Bath & Beyond in the US. He has also held leadership roles with developers like DLF, Ansels API, Omax, SREI Infra, and Express Avenue, and was earlier associated with B&B Paribas Real Estate as the National Director of Retail and Shopping. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. H.C. Dheeraj Dogra, Vice President and Head, Commercial Leasing, M3M Private Limited. A round of applause for Doctor, please. Thank you. Up next, please welcome our next speaker, who in her current role is responsible for providing executive leadership and management of DLF retail malls, including premium and luxury, across marketing, leasing, finance, and operations. A Harvard alumni, is a firm believer in preempting changes and seizing new opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Pushpa Bector, Miss Pushpa Bector, Executive Director, DLF Retail. Well, I love this panel. People are not willing to waste even a second of time, but it is my duty to introduce this kind, humble man. Well, Mr. Yogeshwar Sharma, Executive Director and CEO Select Infrastructure Private Limited, is an professional and has successfully led the country's most admired shopping center, Select CITYWALK, and has been with the organization since its inception. He has been responsible for various functions for Select CITYWALK as well as complete operations and management of the shopping center. Over to the moderator.
Since he's the most enthusiastic person and he's running an Instagram campaign of asking people to guess that they are changing the name of the mall. So is that the solution for asset repositioning in a digital world? Keep changing the name?
No, not really. Good evening, everyone, and I'm really delighted. At least some of you are here, and you are still interested to listen to us. So, if you want to come forward, please come forward. Some of you are equally knowledgeable. You know more than us, no? Why don't you come forward? Like retail is very exciting, you know. Everybody knows in this room that it's very exciting. When I say exciting, it comes with a lot of situations, you know. And one thing which I learned that there are no problems in real estate world. There are only situations. And you have to look at possibility thinking, that what possibilities exist and how do we deal with the situation, because every day is a new day. Now, there is a logo development and there's a brand development. A lot of real estate players know they develop logos. They spend so much money in developing logos, but brand development is much, much broader, vaster, deeper. So if you want, I can explain it a little further or later.
Please, go. Yeah. Absolutely.
For example, if Nike tomorrow makes a hotel, so we know what to expect from Nike is hotel. There will be attention to detail, it will be comfortable and so many things. But tomorrow if Hyatt makes running shoes, we don't know the performance, how it would be. So this is just an example. Just to say. Similarly, Select CITYWALK, we have really worked hard to develop the brand. It stands for something. Tomorrow, if we get into something else, I'm sure it stands for something. We are still yet to figure out that what it stands for. So naming is very, very important, but it is only one part of it. It's not the entire brand development.
Tell me, Yogeshwar, Select CITYWALK, typically we look at we say the first one life cycle of a retail mall is a decade, is already done a decade, and one of the most consistently ranked and known from a performance of retailers, positioning-wise, as one of the most successful malls. But it's not a job which is once done and said, okay, now it's done. You have to keep repositioning itself, and you have to keep doing it, because sometimes earlier there was a thing that malls don't do well, high streets are the way to go. Then the Phygital, the .com and the big online e-commerce came in. Then, COVID happened. And now again, there is a new wave of, electronic shopping, which is working alongside also online e-commerce, which is becoming, we're saying, omni-channel. There's so many things which keep happening in the retail world. Every 2 or 3 years, I think we hear a new phenomena. So how does a retail shopping center, and particularly like yourself, learning from your experience, and have you been involved right from day one, this Select CITYWALK opened up, what do you keep doing to keep it relevant always for the customer?
Yeah. So firstly, in our case, we are lucky because our catchment is very strong. There's already a consumer which is ready. They are more evolved than even the leasing team. They know the brands, they are waiting for the brands to come in, and they're willing to buy at any point in time. So that's one plus point of the location. Second thing is that every business, like especially in real estate, we reach a plateau, because if you fill all the shops and there's a rent which is coming from 6 years, 9 years, so it will be consistent rent and you reach a plateau. But as a part of the leasing team, we have to continuously stretch it further. So by adding more brands, sometimes resizing has really played a very big game in our case. Big brands came, they occupied big spaces, and then we had to really optimize them. Smaller sizes, more throughput, brands which are working, the categories which are working, which are not working. So constantly being aware of what is happening in the center has really given us some insights. And because small is beautiful, we have only one mall, so whole attention is on the one mall. That is also one factor, that we are so engaged that every day by evening or next day, we know what is working, what is not working. And one thing in summary, there's a lot of noise coming from the retailers, from the consumers every day. From that noise, there is some signal. So many times you react to the noise and not to the signal. So to take out what is not working and what needs improvement, what needs attention. So keeping constantly, not shunning the noise, but not even reacting to the noise, but taking the signal out that this needs to be changed, this needs to be worked. So that has really worked for us.
So listening to your consumer constantly gives you the inputs in terms of what you want to do.
Absolutely.
And coming to you, Pushpa, remember a time when you inherited the DLF first portfolio of the leased malls. It was a different era, and it was a different challenge you had hand on hand. You had to relook at the entire portfolio and put the retail business on DLF to today what it is, and probably one of the most successful stories of turnaround, what we call in retail assets, both in Vasant Kunj and Promenade and Saket. as I was talking to Yogesh, and I mentioned to him, we talked about, is saying it's not a one-time exercise. You have to keep constantly repositioning. You've done it once, you've done it with second time with Saket again as well. So in today's world, what is if 2 or 3 key things, like he said, in their perspective is to listen to the customer, which is I presume is the end customer we're talking about. But from your perspective, which are the 2 or 3 key things which have to be looked at in the retail shopping center industry per se, which has to be constantly keep reevaluating to make it successful and keep it relevant? Because something or the other keeps hitting us in the retail business. Unlike the office business, which we can always blame that the US market, just to share that, I was hearing a very interesting presentation. For the last couple of years, 2014 was the big era for residential business, when it was a peak of residential sales. This year is going to be the peak of residential sales, particularly North India we are talking about per se as well. What has been sold, the inventory which has been sold in residential in these 9 months, and the peak 3 months are actually end of the year, but 9 months has already surpassed the 2014 levels. Office space markets in the last 7-8 years has always been booming. Let's take a blip in the middle would be COVID, partial blip. But now there is some kind of a slowdown which has happened or deferment which has happened in the office space business. Because global headwinds are talking about a recession or a cautionary expansion plan. So the global corporates which drive the large amount of office space expansion are kind of putting their plans on hold or deferring the plans. But in retail, we are still seeing going gangbusters right now. But it's not always a story. To keep going gangbusters does not mean the entire industry is doing well. All the malls are not doing well. There are good quality malls or well-planned malls which are doing extremely well. There is a new concepts of mall which I will probably pick up your brains, Abhishek, on that. But from Pushpa, from your standpoint, what are the 2 or key 3 things which is constantly to be looked at in retail industry to keep it relevant from a shopping center perspective?
So each property, like Yogeshwar rightly said, each property has a character of its own. If we look at, trying to create cookie cutter products, it'll fail. So one of the things is that within that catchment, the catchment that is your catchment for that particular property, how relevant are you? That's the first thing. The second thing is that that relevance also keeps evolving. So Mall of India, we started 6 years back. One can see that the audience has changed. The audience, there are lots of people who have migrated into Noida post-COVID, and we are getting a more mature audience. So what we are doing now is really upping the game, pushing few of the brands from ground floor to the first floor and creating more premium brands in there. And so we've just in the past 6 months done some 100 new brands or innovated within that one property. So I think change is the only constant when it comes to retail. That's the first mantra. The second mantra, I would say, is that we need to be really not just listening to the consumer. It is what they say between the lines, in the sense, how are they spending their time? Because wherever they spend their time is where they'll spend their money. So it's really how do you capture their time? To me, that is the key, that one needs to look at. And that also keeps changing. So pre-COVID, the way people spend their time, free time was very different to how they're spending their free time now. So really understanding what's happening in the consumer space, their behavior, their lives, helps us in, again, changing in a targeted manner. So retail is a very targeted-oriented business. It's not as if one can just sort of experiment and get away with it. We will have to be targeted. Otherwise, again, consumers don't spare us, right? If they see a flop product, they will just say, oh, it's not interesting. The third and most important thing is that how do we keep the weekends highly activated so that people come back? Today, the competition is not just, people just don't come to the malls for cinemas. OTT has disrupted us. So things are disrupting at every given point. So how do I ensure that their free time is spent in the right spaces, which are our properties? And second, what's happening in the consumer space on what do they do at home, which actually changes their behavior towards how they spend their money in the shopping malls. So these are the 2-3 things that one needs to keep be very aware of. And last but not the least, what's working online and what's not working online. That's that constant thing that's happening. Some things are working online, and that's also changing. So one needs to really keep evolving, keep understanding. And anyone who says, oh, I have done my best, let me rest on my laurels, that's the day then things start tanking.
Yeah. Not a single day. I mean, it's full of surprises every day.
You have to really be at it.
It's like like say shopping centers is one of probably the only real estate asset which lives, breathes every day, 365 days of the year.
See,
you
either
only
you
close
have
2 half
mad-
days, right?
Yeah. So either people who are working the shopping center industry, they have to be really mad, a little bit of a maverick, and they have to eat, breathe, and sleep when it comes to shopping malls and what they do. So unless you're that passionate about it, don't bother coming and taking a career here. That's my that's my take when I recruit people. I said either you have that bug in you, or don't bother coming.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't even take long weekends, no? I mean, when I look back, every long weekend...
Because the long weekend is the maximum potential time of your business.
Yeah. So even if you're not physically there, no, mentally you have to be there. Yeah. Some call comes, something happens. Yeah.
But tell me, Pushpa, you very rightly just mentioned it that I remember when at one time when I was just having this chat with Abhishek and he's planning a big mall with a multiplex, and I said, listen, don't be in a hurry to sign a multiplex right now. And there is a logic behind it. That at one time when we used to say that one of the biggest drivers of a big shopping center was a cinema, and we had to get it perfectly right because they're going to drive the footfall, they're going to drive the people, they're going to keep getting the crowds in the weekend because the big movie. And suddenly it's kind of changed. We've kind of decoupled. The shopping center is kind of decoupled from the cinema right now, right?
Absolutely. See, the thing is that I wouldn't say completely decoupled, but
partially
decoupled for sure. Because OTT has disrupted, and everyone agrees that 30% of the business is gone forever. And content is king. At the end of the day, that space is all about content. And big content movies, there are only few kinds of movies that are working, and I wonder what those movies are all about, but they are strange movies that are working now, and they're doing some phenomenally crazy numbers, and they are the ones who are getting in those blockbusters. So 4 years back, we all used to say, how many screens do you have? 14 screens, 18 screens. Are you going to do, 10 screen multiplex? Then you're passé. It's not going to work. Today, we are not talking in that language at all. We do not want too many screens. The whole idea has changed. So to me, what is important is now the cinemas are about can I have maximum capacity in one auditorium because it's blockbusters, so the blockbusters will do well. And I do not want these smaller auditoriums because every society's got its own home theater system going. Every home's got a projector. So there is disruption everywhere in the cinema space today.
And so what are you offering in your popcorn, or the differentiation is in the popcorn or the quality of food, because the spend is maximum, is much more than the ticket now.
People who would go for movies, let's say twice a month, are bothering to go maybe twice or thrice a year. It's changed. The behavior has changed completely. So what do we need to do? As developers, one of the biggest challenges that we have as mall developers is how do we make our place flexible? How do we create spaces which is flexible? I think to me, that's the biggest challenge as a developer. We have to keep it flexible so that we change and cater to times. And how do we keep the leases flexible? Now, that's another, that's another story. I won't start that. But truly, that's the way it is. You come to Singapore, the leases are 3 years, and they still make money. Here, with great difficulty, we changed from 9 to 6. Even now, most brands say 9 years and no less. So those are the issues. Flexibility is the requirement of the industry. However, the businesses have to understand.
Today I learned a new clause on negotiating on a warehousing deal, which I can't talk out on the platform because I'll get quoted on it. Maybe I can tell you privately on it. But I learned that they have coined, which retail can adopt very easily. It will take a while, but one sector started doing it in the flexibility on the landlord leases. We'll talk about it. But coming to you, Dheeraj, with your experience in terms of international. So what's happening in the global scene, which we can look at taking up ideas which Indian retail and shopping centers can look at and keep repositioning themselves and be relevant at always? Because, The fact of the matter is, Abhishek, just quickly correct me if I'm wrong, to build a 500,000 plus square feet mall, you need what, 600-700 crores, 500-600 crores, which go in as capital today?
Build 500,000?
Yeah, 500,000.
I would say roughly 200 crores.
200 crores plus, right? Yeah. Depending, and then I'm saying probably land cost is very there.
Oh yes,
yes.
With land costs.
So anywhere
400,
500 crores, yeah. Right? So Dheeraj, with 500 crores of capital getting built into one project, it's unlike a residential where you sell unit by unit, you still get away with it. Even if you've not done successfully very well, you still recover a large part of the cost. Here it is 0 on one game. Either you make it or you don't make it. So either 500 crores becomes a decent amount of return for the developer, or it becomes completely almost negligible. So what trends are you seeing internationally, which and how do we keep relevant in the new world?
Okay, there are a couple of things that come to my mind, and I'd like to state them in. One thing I completely agree when Pushpa mentioned about the changing environment. Change is the only constant, which is absolutely true for anybody. Now, let's look at how things are changing across the globe, and let's see if we are working on the same tangent. We have a lot of population now, slowly, which is growing at a very high pace, who are buying online. Okay, so how do we leverage that in terms of buying online, so that these same people are also able to come to the malls? So if we follow a policy which has been going on in the US at least for last couple of years, and in the Western world, is buy online, pick up from the store. Okay. The problem buying online is there is always, depending on the inventory, okay, depending on if their distribution centers are close by or not, it takes a couple of days still in India for them to deliver. If we are able to do buy online and pick up in the store, so you can have instant gratification, helps in two ways. One, you still have your customer, you still have the brand, and he will also come to the mall to pick it up, if they can, or the store to pick it up. When he comes to pick it up, he might even browse around and find something else as well. So, and you're increasing footfalls. So that's one thing which is happening all over, which we should also. And it also helps just in case if, for a customer who only buys online, if they have to return something, in this case, if they go to the store to pick it up, they try it on, it doesn't fit, they don't have to buy it, okay? So these are things which, and they can do it the same day. So this is, we'll have to do various things, and mostly retailers will have to do. So I just gave you one example. Second example I'll give you is of depth in retail. We still don't, and I've been here several years now, I still don't see any depth in our retail. When I say depth in retail, once, long time ago, I used to be a buyer with Macy's and Bloomingdale's, and I used to buy ladies' shoes. So when you buy ladies' shoes, you're looking at one style, let's say, for example, a Enzo or a Bandolino or whichever. A size 7 will come in so many different varieties. So you'll do a 7 AAA, which is the narrowest 7, to 7 AA, to 7B, which is medium, to 7C, which is wide, to 7 CC, extra wide. Then from 7, it goes to 7.5. That depth in retail, the moment we start having that depth in retail, people will come to the mall. They'll come to the stores. They will probably not shop as much. Believe it or not, I buy my suits, and I buy it from Amazon.com, from the US site, just because my suit, if I'm buying a size 44, to me, a size 44 short is what fits me. If you go to a shop in India, you will get a 44 or a 42 there is no in between. So the depth is not there. if you have the depth, that'll make people come, try it, okay, and maybe buy something else as well. Last, I would think is, which is the most important part, again, the burden sits on the retailer, is customer service. There is absolutely, I mean, we can't even start. The customer service in India, in the stores, it's a joke, seriously. You go to a mall, you go to a store, and if you don't have your size, if you expect that the salesperson will go, look up on his inventory and see, okay, my store in Ambience has this size, so sir, no worries, we'll get it dropped to you. Things don't happen like that. So if you are able to give that service, treat the person, treat your customer the way he would like to be. Okay, not just, ये size नहीं है जी, ये इस color में ये नहीं है, ये available है. Okay. Now, उनकी भी गलती नहीं है, because the lack of training, lack of people, the last end of where you have the end user and when they're dealing with the salesperson there, जो वो connection है ना, वो बहुत weak है. आपने 10, 12, 15 हज़ार पे salesman को रख लिया, okay? You haven't trained them. You haven't explained. They have absolutely no understanding of when new merchandise comes in, uske kya features hain, how should I be. So I think that experience comes from the last end, not from the merchandiser, not from the designer. It comes from that last end for the customer. Okay? If my salesperson tells me, listen, आपको ये नहीं, आपको ये भी चाहिए या इसके साथ ये मिल जाएगा. I coined a word in 95, for which I was Employee of the Year for Macy's, called personal shopping. 95 में किया था मैंने. इतने से थे आप भी हम दो ज़्यादा बड़े नहीं हैं.
95 में, I mean, India, like retail industry was very, very nascent.
Right, yeah. I started my retail journey in the late 80s in the US. तो वो मैं मतलब वो चीज़ देखता हूँ कि वो उस समय भी जो डेप्थ थी वो आज customer service में नहीं है. A customer comes and says, listen, मुझे ये चीज़ पसंद नहीं, no questions asked. Okay, until you bring that depth of customer service, you will not be able to bring your customers to the mall and to the stores. So I feel a lot of this depends on the retailers that they have to keep functioning. And one last thing, because we touched upon OTT and cinemas, I seriously feel, यार 700 रुपए की टिकट, 800 की टिकट, यार टिकट आप थोड़ा सा मतलब थोड़ा सस्ता करो. बीच में चालू हुआ था वो फ्राइडे को 100 रुपए की टिकट. And make the popcorn and Pepsi not that expensive. You will see the numbers happening. उसके बाद you gradually move them to the next level. 100 के बाद फिर 150 ले जाओ फिर वो. You cannot afford a middle class family for 4 people. If you had to go to a decent cinema, you're talking about $4,000, maybe more. I mean, come on. तो वो अगर वही चीज़ 1000 में हो जाएगी तो आदमी कहता है चल यार पिक्चर खराब भी थी, चलो आउटिंग हो गई हमारी. I mean, you've got to keep that into perspective. वो कुछ सिनेमास बनाइए जो कि गोल्ड क्लास हो, जहाँ you have a separate clientele for it, which will go to a gold class. But for a normal person, you're not catering to a normal person. हमारे अभी भी जो आप Tier 3, Tier 4 टाउन्स में जाते हैं, सिंगल स्क्रीन पुराने दुनिया जहान के पुराने जो सिनेमाज हैं क्यों चलते हैं? Because they cater to that man on the street. उसके पास वो उसके पास 50 रुपए के लिए वो क्या करे? अब गुड़गांव में कहाँ पिक्चर देखेगा? I was born in Gurgaon and I can tell you that एक आध टूटा हुआ सिनेमा है यहाँ पे. Okay, it used to be 5, 6. अब वो जिसके पास 50-100 रुपए हैं वो मल्टीप्लेक्स में घुस ही नहीं सकता. And that is the person who will be your repeat customer. उसको एक पिक्चर अच्छी लगी है गोविंदा की तो वो बाहर बाहर जाएगा देखने के लिए. Numbers happen in movies not by amount of people, but the same
Dheeraj,
people saying it again.
So Dheeraj, you're saying is that there is a market at every price point in the country, and
Absolutely.
you can create a retail space for a lower end segment of the market also today. So that coming to that means there is a there is an evolution which has happened in the retail industry. I remember when the first mall really came up, Abhishek, which was really 2001, was small one in Gurgaon and one in Mumbai. Crossroads in Mumbai and Metropolitan in Gurgaon was really the first attempt to do retail, which was 2.5 lakh square feet. Then we straight away jumped to almost malls of 1 million, 1.5 million. Even people started talking about building 2 million square feet malls. And then we've come back to building very few million square feet, but a lot more of 500,000 square feet malls. But there's a new category of shopping centers which have come in, particularly which you have built in the new part of Gurgaon, which is like the open format retail centers, which is more neighborhood. But earlier neighborhood centers were looked at and saying lower quality. But you've repositioned it, the asset of neighborhood centers, and said neighborhood centers can be high quality with high quality brands as well. So what is the change, or what is the opportunity to build retail developments like that in India? And what are you seeing? That's why you're going more aggressively in this sector of building retail today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched upon the right nerve that malls are not necessarily, the downtowns and the CBDs. Now you have to reach people where they actually are. And the catchments are rich. That's why you see so much growth happening in the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. When it comes to malls, brands, you speak to any brand, they are aggressive, going outside the metros. And I feel that the satellites opportunity to all metros is also there. And that's where we positioned ourselves as neighborhood centers. Because there are many things that one would not like to travel right up to the mall, which is like 10 kilometers away, 7 kilometers away. And people, they enjoy kind of a community town center, just like spend your Saturday, Sundays is kind of your evenings out. When you come back to your children, just take them out somewhere. So they need nearby shopping centers, giving access to all sorts of necessities. And then they're not really expensive, and it depends on the catchment. Like what Dheeraj said today, INOX there sells the ticket as at 180 rupees in New Gurgaon. So
which is perfectly well
which
priced.
Is fine.
Which is
fine,
for that
yeah.
market, 180 rupees. Typically, it's a more young catchment, so you're talking about a husband-wife working can easily go and afford to spend $400 on a ticket and probably another 300, 400, 500
and
rupees.
they justify rents. I mean, he's right. They justify rents. Aisa nahi hai. But the rents, obviously, if you go to something like Select CITYWALK or a promenade, a 180 rupees ticket might not justify rent. So it all depends. So these neighborhood centers, you see more value brands, but quality, like Reliance Trends, Max would come there instead of a Lifestyle or M&S. You will see DIY instead of, other multi-brand stores. Smaller players, QSRs, of course, and you'll cater to more neighborhood things like smaller beauty stores, ethnic wear, a jockey, a Go Colors, a pharmacy. You'll have, whatnot, health cafe, cycle guy, and so many categories that are not available in bigger malls because they can't afford the bigger malls. And these categories have always been in SCO complexes.
So when you say they can't afford the malls, so with going into a neighborhood retail center, which is typically open format, is it apart from the rent, is the cost of operation lower as well in terms of maintenance charges, outgoings, other outgoings?
Yeah, so it's mostly not air-conditioned mall. So the maintenance is probably, if not half, 60%. The cost of other things in terms of your own air conditioning and stuff like that, I don't know. I mean, if you, because these brands are more value approach, they're not luxury or premium bridge to luxury. So neighborhood centers suit them best.
So you're saying there is a whole lot of retail available, retailers or demand available for retailers who would fit into big mocks as well. But if there's a catchment, they are willing to go into in open format, next door shopping centers which are well built in terms of quality, well built. And I mean, well built does not mean that there is expensive stone and escalators there.
Like I grew up in Delhi, and for me, go-to market was GK, South X, Defense Colony, So these markets always used to fill our needs, the Oscars market, everything. They used to have almost everything, like the bakery, like the small conventional stores, convenience stores, used to have dry cleaners, used to have, this cycle repair shop, whatnot. So now these have been more organized, in my opinion. If you can make them more organized, give the customer a better experience of parking, coming inside, enjoying festivals, events. So they're ready to spend more time there. I mean, if I would go to a GK, I'll just go in and come out. But it's not the same for neighborhood centers. People will spend 2 hours upwards. So then that gets opportunity to get the more premium brands as well.
Great. So, Yogeshwar, sorry, I'm get you in the conversation back. There is, the retail has become a lot more, everybody's talking about, particularly with the large malls or the premium malls, has become a lot more of saying these are the showcase locations now, because this is about experience. These are not about shopping alone. How are you pushing the retailers to create that experience? Because I've seen Select always has been able to, between you and DLF, I think, in North India, and in fact, all across India, become examples for a lot of the brands to say that the best high first quality experience quality stores, which they follow internationally, you've been able to get them to do it. And Dheeraj said that, in India, retailers are not, still the depth is not there. Whereas, and I want you both separately to answer that, is how have you been able to motivate the retailers to do the next stage retail stores? Because today, you don't know where the customer's journey starts for buying a product. Either it starts online and ends at the store, or it starts at the store and he goes home and back it online the same day or the next day. Because it's very fungible today, right? You can go to buy the same Zara dress in the store. You can buy it offline as well. You can buy online as well. Pricing is same. Everything is Spain. The lady could come and try it in the store and go and buy later online, consult her friend and or reach home and maybe sit in her room and then order it. It's find it easier. Or looks at it online on the app and comes and buys it in your store. So how have you been able to motivate retailers to create the next stage of retail stores?
So it's very, very clear now, evident that retailers are getting a lot of business from online. It started with 2%, 3%, 5%, very insignificant, and now most of them have crossed 20% of their revenues are coming online. Minimum 20%, they have reached that 20-25%. For us, the challenge is, for brick and mortar, that how do we remain relevant to the consumers? And so for that put us into a situation where whenever we are signing a lease or whenever we are dealing with a retailer or talking to a retailer, we request him to showcase it in the best form and have some differentiator. If we can't do much, but at least put a new collection there. The experience, the staff has to be so good, because we don't know whether the customer, they also realize that both are supplementing each other, the online and offline. And the consumer may look at the store and buy online, or in Zara is a very good example where we see online also is helping offline, because people buy online, they can come and return and offline they can pick it up anything from there. So ultimately, both worlds have merged in a way, already merged in a way. And coming to the second point, that retailers also wants to up the game, and they have that wish to showcase their best products, showcase their best fit outs and best staff. In our case, we really seriously talk about it. Any store which is like looking not so right, or the merchandise, there is some issue, we really talk to them, but what are the issues, why the sales are not happening. For example, I share this many times, that each category, we plot it monthly. For example, let's take beauty. In beauty, we have 20 brands. So we'll plot them, their sales, and it will be very visible that some brand is doing extremely well, some brand is lagging, so we see the graph. And that graph clearly tells that there is a consumer. If brand A is selling and brand C is not selling, so brand C has to do something about it. So it's working very closely with brand C, asking him again and again, is there a staff issue, is there a stock issue, or the store issue, or what is the reason that you are unable to? And most of the time, retailers accept that there is something they need to work upon. We also offer, if you need our help, for example, if you want to come out and display something, if you want to amplify. Amplify is the right word, because each brand has their own stories. Like mall may not have a story every day, but retailers every week have some story. Somebody has launched a blue jacket, somebody has a winter collection, there's a new fresh stock, something to talk, Nike has launched a new shoe, or Jordan has launched a new shoe, or Adidas has launched a new Yeezy store. So they are amplifying it to their customer target audience. For example, Mango launches something new, so they have their like some customers. They will definitely send a circular or a emailer that this is new in the store, but that's very limited. And already people are buying from Mango, so they know it. They will anyway visit. The whole game is how to increase the pie. So there comes the role of the mall, where we will come into picture, take their stories and try to amplify to a bigger audience, so that the new people can also come and experience the same merchandise. So going forward, some stores, you rightly mentioned, are only becoming display stores, because rent to revenue ratio may not stack up. I mean, are you getting my point? I mean, when you see the sales and the rent,
their sales may not be as
good to
sustain that store alone.
Yeah,
if you look,
store is not profitable if you say the sales of the store, but it is doing a purpose. I mean, it is showcasing the brand and creating. Like Dyson is a very good example. I'm not saying that their sales are low, but I mean, their store is an experience store. You can come and experience the product, and you can buy online anywhere. So this is really helping, in my opinion. Pushpa, you want to add something?
So Pushpa, I mean, one is getting the brand, right? And the other one is how do we make it a differentiating, as I said, the journey starts, you don't know where it starts. Is there a contractual obligation you can create for a brand to do a certain specific kind of a store, or is it on purely relationship and your own drive and passion to, for a mall owner or representative of the malls, you're a mall manager, that you push the customer, the retailer to do an X quality of store, or get into their design? Is it a very hands-down approach, or is it a hands-off approach with them? Or is it a moral obligation? I mean, how do you able to structure something with them that way? Because the retailer will always have his own story. This is my 100 stores, this is my format, this is my signage, the way it looks like, and it will become another store in the city.
So,
particularly retailers which have got multiple stores across the country.
I think retailers are very smart people.
They're nice people.
And at the same time, mall developers also are people who have got some smarts. Not too much, some. So what we do is, in our clauses, we have a renovation clause, obviously. Every 6th year, they have to renovate. So during that time, and also when let's say a lease is expiring. Okay.
Sorry, but you're saying every 6th year
they have to renovate.
Renovate means
they have to renovate the store.
एक light change कर दी, that's renovation? What do you mean the renovation?
The renovation clause is very clear.
What is the extent? You say like this is the X
full
amount.
Renovation
100%.
With the latest format and the latest brand format of the world, whatever it is, wherever it is, that has to come into our space. So that's one way, through contractual obligation. The second is, initially, what do? How do you make sure that they, So for that, you must understand that brands these days, each brand type, and our job is to understand which brand type has what strategy. So, for example, Zara's strategy is to have very few stores, and their growth path is very small and few and in between. And they have a hub and spoke model in which they are going online in an aggressive fashion a certain way, but offline they want to go flagship. As compared to, say, an H&M, who's carpet bombing, they don't care much about format sizes. They keep swinging between 30,000 to 15,000 to,
11,000 also.
11,000 or 8,000, I heard. So they are carpet bombing because that is their strategy. So we need to understand what is the strategy that brand is adopting, and how does that relate to us. So suppose a particular brand is too large sized, but their actual now optimum size is turned out to be 15K. How do I get them to become a 15K store as soon as possible? If they have to be a 15K store, then they better renovate and make it really current. So it's that constant engagement. And I said, I use this and I'm repeating it, that change is the only constant, is the truth of the matter. So if we do that, then what we are doing is that we are ensuring that engagement is there, and we are then pushing the brand that it's better profitability for you and for us. I can give you zillion examples where I've sat across the table and said, please go to the first floor or whatever floor, but optimize your size. And their optimized size gave them higher productivity. I'm talking top line, not trading per square foot, top line. Because it just made more sense to the customer, utna hi merchandise tha. Jitna us jagah ke liye chahiye. It was a 700 square feet format.
And you'll keep the relevant merchandise
had
also.
some CEO had a fanciness of 2,000 square feet. It was not making sense. So at 600 or 700, it makes more sense. So then they have to renovate.
And in fact, if you put more merchandise, in my opinion, is sometimes you confuse the customer as well.
Yeah.
Particularly in a standard
Yeah.
category like a jeans.
Right.
Like you can't, if you have like 500 SKUs, does not mean you'll sell more jeans.
Yeah,
if you're like
exactly.
probably 30 SKUs of
Exactly.
jeans, it'll
Yeah.
sell better.
So on the other hand, a brand like Zara is going in for experiential retailing in the real sense. You know, the new Zara format store is like wow in building material ways and other ways. So I guess it's about engagement, Pankaj. We can go on and on. The ladies here.
I think that's...
Well, considering that this is quite the lively conversation, I believe we have time to take up one question. Please, if anybody has a question related to this particular conversation, please. We do. If only you are done with the conversation, then I may ask them for the question. Any question from anybody? Well, then my take would be that you have managed to cover all the details, all the aspects of the topic. And I believe that was quite the detailed conversation that you've put forth. Thank you so very much. Can I please request you all to kindly come forward for a group picture? And also, as a small token of appreciation for taking out time and doing this for us, can I please invite Mr. Aditya Kumar, Managing Director, Victoria Lifts Private Limited, to present a small token of appreciation to you.